Welcome to Mimir, the podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs who want to launch and grow a successful business from day one. I'm your host, Maddie Kelly, and each week I sit down with founders who have been there, done that. We dive into the mindset, strategies, and practical tools you need to turn your vision into a reality. So let's get to work. Hey guys, welcome back to Mimir. Some businesses begin with a market analysis or a spreadsheet. Verdant began with friendship, a love of lingerie, and a belief that what we wear closest to our skin should move with us through every version of ourselves. My guest today, Eleanor Mooney, co-founded Verdant in New York alongside her friend Michelle. Verdant is their own story of resilience, craftsmanship, and confidence stitched into silk and lace. What struck me most in our conversation isn't just how the two of them are hand-stitching embellishments and testing out pieces themselves or navigating the realities of luxury e-com. It's the deeper thread, how easy it is for women founders to undervalue their expertise and how to reclaim that authority. Eleanor shares candidly about self-doubt, about learning who your customer really is. It's rarely who you thought it would be at the start, and about the balance between grace and grit that entrepreneurship demands. This episode is for anyone standing at that uncertain edge, wondering if they know enough, if they're ready enough. Eleanor's story reminds us that business is not just about product, it's about community, self-trust, and evolution. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Eleanor to the podcast. Eleanor, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Maddie. I'm super thrilled to be here and chat with you about Verdant. I'm Mimir.
I'm super pumped. But before we dive in, I would love for you to just give the people a quick rundown of your background and like what led you to Verdant.
Yeah, so I am the founder of Verdant, or co-founder of Verdant, which is a luxury lingerie line based here in New York. We design everything here. We produce everything here right in the garment district. Everything is small batch. I actually met my co-founder, Michelle, here in New York. When I moved here about 15 years ago. We worked for the same luxury menswear company. And we bonded over the fact that we were both Filipina and that we both loved lingerie. And we talked a bit about maybe opening a lingerie store at some point. And that kind of fell by the wayside, like life happens. She got married, had 2 kids. And then during COVID, went back to FIT and got her tech design degree and approached me about starting Verdant. At the time, we weren't really sure what it was. We knew we wanted to do something luxury, something really special. At the time, there were quite a few brands that were folding. And so we knew that there was a little bit of a gap in the market, especially for a New York-based brand. And, I think we'll go through some of the things that we came across during, the last 3 or 4 years in developing the line. But the main thing was that we knew we wanted to create a line for New York women, for women like us who, had gone through many different metamorphoses throughout our life, but wanted lingerie that stood the test of time and moved with us throughout our day. Like I said, Michelle is married with 2 kids, and so she's constantly running around after her kids at the playground. I'm running 2 businesses and I have a dog, and so I'm constantly on the move throughout the day. And we all just want like an essential piece of our wardrobe that we put on in the morning that fits us really well, makes us feel really confident and comfortable, empowered. And when we take it off at the end of the day, it's still in the same place. It hasn't shifted around. It's still in, a great position and makes us still feel good and doesn't feel uncomfortable as like the day wears on.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's such a great call out. I'm curious too, like before I think we dive a little bit deeper, like it sounds like New York is really important to the brand, and I'm kind of curious to understand like why New York? Like why is it, made, produced, loved in and by like New Yorkers?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Have you ever lived in New York?
So I did a semester at Columbia.
Oh,
So I spent some time on like the Upper West Side, living in the dorms that they had there. So like I've been in New York for like a New York minute, truly.
was it in the fall or spring or summer?
Summer.
Summer. Oh, perfect. Okay, so summer is like the best time in New York. Everyone's out, everyone's doing stuff. Yeah, I think, there's an energy in New York, and I think everyone says that, but I think until you're actually here in it, you really don't know what that means. Like it's constant, especially when you're in Manhattan. And I think I live in Brooklyn, Michelle lives in Brooklyn. And there's a different feel. Like I live in a really nice community where there are lots of restaurants and parks, and you can be out and about all day, but still come home and feel, pretty calm. And I think when you're in Manhattan, there's just like constant, constant, constant. There's so much energy moving around the city. And so there's something about that, I think, especially creating a business in New York where people are always on the move. They know what they want it now. If you don't have it, they'll go somewhere else that can give it to them. And I think with lingerie specifically, like it is a base layer, it's an essential. And we wanted something that embodied the New York woman, which is someone that's on the move, doing a million things at once, wants to feel good, wants to look good, but also is investing in their clothing and investing in the products that they buy, investing in the brand, believes in the brand story. And for us, we created a brand that's really a brand that we would shop. It's not just, it is very values based. Buy product based on the brand and based on the founder story. That's really important to me. And Michelle is really good at finding like these really niche small brands and shopping them and supporting them. So we wanted to create a brand that was similar to that, but we also wanted to have her be really hands-on with everything. One thing that I talk about a lot is when we first started the brand, I think we did what a lot of women do, which is kind of underestimate and undervalue ourselves and like our expertise and what we knew. And we thought that we needed to like hire a bunch of people who could like tell us how to make this product, help us create the product. And what we found quickly is that like we could do it all on our own. We have amazing team production and grading, and like we had a tech person that was super helpful for the first couple of years of building out the product, but we knew what we needed to source. We were really great networkers. We were able to find the people that we needed to connect to, and being hands-on throughout the entire production process. Like we're in production right now for a holiday, like our first capsule holiday collection, and Michelle is in the garment district every day with our production facility to make sure that like everything is working perfectly. And last week I was hand sewing our like embroidered embellishment onto like silk straps. Like we've never worked with silk before, so we're trying to figure out how to do that, and our production facility won't do it. So like we're going to do it. We're going to hand sew these onto the bras and the bottoms, and then I war tested it that next day to make sure like everything stayed in place. So it really is like we are wearing these pieces, we are fitting the pieces, we're testing the pieces, we are on site as they're being made, and making like minor tweaks as they come up. Like if this had happened, like if we were making this collection abroad and this had happened and we were expecting to like put them out on shelves in November, we would not be in a good place right now. We'd be like, what do we do? Because we literally have to like get the pieces as they're halfway made, sew on these pieces, and then give it back to the production facility for them to finish them.
That's amazing. And there's a few things that I want to pull out of that because I think you said so many amazing things. First of all, quick question. Where are you finding these like small niche brands? I have got to know because I feel like I am the same way and I'm always looking for a small business to support.
Yeah, I will connect you to Michelle because she's really, really good at it. We were on the phone with our PR person today, and she like was bringing up all of these different people, and Michelle knew like all of them, and I was like, I don't know who any of these people are. She's really good at it. I don't know how.
Okay.
My algorithm does not go that way.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I'm like, where are we finding these cool brands? I need to know. And I need to let the people know. So, okay, yeah, that's great. So, like, my next question is, I think what you said about like women entrepreneurs doubting themselves like very early, I think is very common. Even like before I started the podcast, my first thing was like, I don't know how to run a business. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I think there's this like you see this big daunting thing of like starting a business and it seems so big and scary that you automatically like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. But then I think when you get into it, it's just the culmination of small steps being taken. And I think like what you're saying, you realize slowly that you can. But I'm also curious, like, how did your, history and background in retail like serve you here? Was there just still like a lot that you were having to learn on the go, or do you think like you were set up pretty well for success in that area?
Yeah, those are great questions. I think with any entrepreneur, I know a lot of my clients are entrepreneurs as well and have been for, 20 plus years. And I think they're still learning things. I think as humans, we're constantly learning. And if you're not, maybe you should be. Like, there's always something to learn.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've taken away from like a former boss of mine, she was the founder of Journal. One thing that she said when she started Journal was like, ask everyone you know out for coffee. Like, they will give you advice. They will connect you to 5 more people. Like, and you don't have to take everything everyone says into your business, but you can take it with a grain of salt. And maybe like 5-10 years from now, what that person said at that coffee that you had with them will be important to you in that moment. And I think that's really, really true. And I still stick to that for everything. I think it's part of like building a community, which I think is really important when starting a business, especially if you're not like, I love talking to people, but Michelle is like more on the introverted side, and she like doesn't necessarily like to like speak in public or like speak on camera, and so, or go up to people she doesn't know. And so for her, it's a little trickier, but she's really good at talking about what she knows, which is lingerie and fit and customer service. And so like when we go to conventions, or if we're talking to other people in the industry, like she really shines. And I think that's really important when you're thinking about what you are creating and what you're bringing to the table, is like, we may not think of ourselves as experts in something, but we are. And there may be other experts, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean that you're not an expert because you know someone else who knows more than you. And so keeping that in mind, and like, it's good that you know things, and it's good to share those things. And like, what you share with someone is really important. And I'm sure they'll remember even a tiny bit of it at some point in their life.
Yeah. And I think the cool thing too is that as co-founders, like you guys work really well because you have strengths where she doesn't and vice versa. And you guys like really balance each other out. But the more I do these conversations and the more I hear founder stories like across industries, I feel like it's really all about connection. Like being a founder in general, like you're connecting with your customers, but at the same time, you're also connecting with each other. You're connecting with other humans in other industries as you learn the different assets of your business, and like you're always hearing other people's stories and learning from them and like taking what resonates and leaving what doesn't.
Yeah.
It's just constantly like I think it's just always like a conversation rather than something that needs to be mastered.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You said it perfectly. I think that I totally agree. It's so true. I think especially with fashion, like things are always evolving. And I think every business, like the founder of Netflix, like he talks about it all the time, like you have to evolve. And the only reason they've survived is because they evolved. Yeah. It's so
That actually, sorry, you just reminded me. I wanted to ask you, did you guys do Fashion Week? Because I know that it just ended in New York, right?
We didn't do anything with Fashion Week. We have some friends who've done things for Fashion Week in the past for brands they've worked for. I think it's a lot. There's a lot of money that goes into it. There's a lot of PR that you have to do. So we haven't done it. It would be fun to be involved in the future and do something. We're also talking about like, do you know Fashion Night Out? Do you remember that? Did you ever hear that?
It sounds familiar.
They had it like when I first moved to New York, it was a huge thing, but it was before I moved here as well. So like maybe like it was like 10, 15 years ago, they were doing it. And it was this like super fun, like night out during Fashion Week, and all these brands would throw parties, and like you'd walk around Soho, basically going from like store to store to store, and there would be like DJs and food.
Oh, that's
and
so
I feel
cool.
like that's kind of cool, where like smaller brands could kind of get involved in some way, and like people could find you. I think like the fashion week itself, like there's just so much money in it. And you need to have like really like a big collection, I think, to show for the season, I think, for it to be worthwhile.
Yeah, I was always curious to get like the brand perspective of Fashion Week because you only see, I think, like the influencer side and like the, that side of Fashion Week. You never really see what happens on the back end of like what it means to actually participate in that because you just hear about it and like it's a cool thing to participate in, but like to what degree does it make sense for business? Like I'm fascinated to know what the ROI looks like in terms of like cost of acquiring a customer, like how much does that cost? Like what what is the ROI that you're putting into this event? I've always been like fascinated.
Yeah, from what I know, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of production.
Not good.
Yeah. I think unless you're like a really big brand, I don't know that it's really worthwhile. There are a lot of like smaller like fashion week events that happen, and I think that could be really cool to like get involved, or like maybe we coordinate like some sort of like a women's collective. I think that would be really fun,
Mm,
like a little thing. But being a part of like fashion week itself, I think it's like, don't quote me on this, I think it's a minimum of like five or like 7,500. Like just be involved in like the book that says that you're participating in it. And
interesting.
that
It's almost like
doesn't,
a conference, like
yes,
almost like if you wanted to sponsor a conference. Fascinating.
exactly.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, quick pivot. I wanted to like since we're kind of going in that direction, I want to talk a little bit about your experience with like the product is very tactile, right? Like how has it been for you guys in market and educating your customers because it's such like an e-commerce world. Like how are you getting people to interact with the product to really understand the value of it?
Yeah, ecom is really tricky. I left retail about 10 years ago, and I think in that 10 years so much has changed.
Mm,
Obviously ecom was big 10 years ago, but like it's really shifted where so many small brands can't even afford to have any sort of brick and mortar, or any space even in wholesale, which I think is really sad because like again, like talking about small brands, like how do you find small brands if they're not even on the shelves somewhere where you shop?
yeah.
So there are a couple of things that we've done, or a few things that we've done to try to make it more accessible. One is, we have a fit process on our website, so you can book a private fitting with us, or like you just watch the video of our model who, she kind of circles around and you can see how she fits herself. Or again, like you can schedule with one of us and it's a private video that we can tell you exactly how to fit. You have a soft tape and, the band measurement, the cup measurement, and then what shapes may be best for you based on the bras that you currently have and how they fit you and your size and shape. And one thing that I think a lot of women don't realize is like, it's not just about your band and your cup size. So much of it is about your shape as well. And so some women think that they are not a certain size because the bras they're buying have like too much coverage actually, and they're not filling out the cup when really they need like
Mm,
a smaller shape cup, so like a demi or a balconette, and they would totally fill that cup out. And some women think that they are a bigger cup when really they're just used to wearing demis and they're like spilling out of their cup because they're so full. Yeah. So
I'm having so many thoughts right now.
yeah. And that's like something you can't totally communicate in, on a website. Like you really do need to have those
Hmm.
conversations, and like seeing someone in person and trying on those different shapes is so important. And the other part of it for us that we can still do since we're so small is we can ship kind of a few different cuts and sizes to clients and then take whatever doesn't work back. We obviously won't be able to do that forever, but that's one thing that I think
Yeah.
as a small brand we're able to do. And then also try to get feedback from all of our clients who purchase. And not everyone will want to give
Mm,
feedback, but it's really helpful to know, to be able to shape the product and to be able to build out future collections for what people want to have, what they're not finding out in the market anymore, and maybe bras that like they bought forever and that brand has folded and they really loved a certain shape, and maybe they can replicate it in some way and make it better.
yeah, it's so fun with small brands, like what you're able to do versus what you can't do, like at a larger scale. Like I think there's just so much more. Again, I think it comes back to like connection to the customer, right? Like you're just so much closer to them.
Yeah.
And I always think that that's so beautiful because you can offer so much more. And then, of course, like as you scale, it's like hard to navigate that transition because you're like, I still want to be able to provide a level to my customers, but like also, when does it become like financially unsustainable?
Yeah. And when you're not providing the same products that you originally set out to provide, I think is a
Mm,
scaling issue. I think so many brands, especially when we're talking about, big banks getting involved in brands, having to scale it in such a way that's really unsustainable for providing the products that they are known for. Yeah, it's
and I think
fun.
too, there's like also I was just gonna say, like, I think there's also your product develops, right? And then, like, as you start to understand what your customer wants, like, what you started with is almost never the same as, like, where it is, and the product is always constantly iterating, right? So there's always, like, that too, where it's like, it's not, you know, you might not you might have the same like customers as when you started, but you also might not.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's okay, right? Like if you're evolving into something that, is better for the brand or better for you as a business owner or something that you feel more attached to, or you're just reaching a client that you want to reach, that's okay to change. And I think that there is like a false sense that, especially with fast fashion and fashion that like everyone can afford, you can't satisfy everyone. Like I'm definitely
Hmm.
not a like entry level bra person. Like those bras just don't work for me and for my shape. So I'll never wear them, but I know so many people can and will, and that's great. But I also want to have a bra that I can wear and love. And so like where's that collection for me? And same thing with all different clothes. So yeah, I do think there's like this false idea that like every person is your client and potential customer, and
Hmm.
I don't think that's true, and I don't agree with that.
No, no, I think that that's probably like a bad business plan. If you're, starting
Yeah.
a product and you're like a new business and you think you can service everybody, like that's like 101 to me, like bad news bears do not collect go and do not pass go and collect $200. Like you need to stop and think about like who you're servicing, why you're servicing them, and like with what are you servicing them with? Because otherwise, like I think it's just an insurmountable goal and also like yeah, I don't know. I think in this day and age, especially when there's so many products out there to choose from, if you don't really understand your why and your what, like you're just going to get lost in the sea.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they all start to blend together,
Hmm.
and you don't want that. Like you want to be able to stand out, especially as a small brand.
Yeah. And I guess on that topic, when we talked off air, you were mentioning that you guys had some early tractions, but like some of the challenges that you guys are facing has been finding like the right customer. So I think I want you to talk a little bit about that. Like, how are a lot of entrepreneurs wrestle with this. Like, you're building something new. How do you compete? How do you stand out? Like, sometimes it feels like the only way to win is if you have like a personal following and then like you launch a product and that like makes it a lot easier. But I was actually having a conversation about this last night with one of my brother's friends. He's starting an app, and it's like, how do you create marketing that captures your brand, that feels authentic to you as a founder, but like still have a regular cadence on top of all the other things that you have to do during the day to actually like make a product?
Yeah. Is he doing it on his own?
Yeah, yeah, it's like basically him and his wife.
Wow. Yeah. It's tough. Yeah, there's so much in there. Like I think it wasn't scaly. Like the first part of the question is really like how do you stick to the client that you want, right? And how to like
Hmm.
find that person or like the group of them. Yeah. I think when you start a business, most of us think that we know who the client is going to be.
Mm.
And then when you actually start working with the product and working with the customer, that often changes, kind of like what we were just saying. I think you don't really know who your client is until you're actually working with the product.
Mm.
And when you have your first few clients and see how they're interacting with it. Because I think when we launched, we thought that our target demographic was going to be a lot younger than it actually is.
How did you find that out? Was that like, did you like launch your first campaign and like you realized that the people who were actually buying were a different demographic, and then you're like, how the hell did that happen? Or
Yeah, exactly. That's
okay.
exactly what happened. We were like, this is not the client that we thought. And a lot of actually people purchasing from outside of New York, which was really surprising to us. A lot of people in like women who were kind of executive level, but in design industries, so like architecture or in or like had were just really interested in art and culture. Like you could tell from their Instagrams and the work that they did, even if it wasn't their day to day work.
Hmm.
And I think especially now with the cost of goods, like we do have a luxury price point. It is going to be for like a certain group of people who can afford that, especially not knowing the brand, being a new brand and not having a following. I think it's hard for people to justify spending, $200 plus on a bra if they don't know.
Hmm.
and there isn't a history. So in the beginning, it was definitely skewed a little older than we realized. And so what we did with that is when we brought on a creative team for our second two collections and our photo shoot to kind of rebrand a little and kind of think about who we were trying to target, why we were targeting them, like exactly what you said, like what is our why and how do we stick with that and how do we display that to the customer in a way that's really clear with our messaging. And so we did a lot of brainstorming. We talked a lot about a lot of the images that we liked in other brands, thought a lot about who our models were, what they were displaying. And so like when we talk about New York and a woman in motion, like our models are in movement throughout the whole photo shoot. And you can see on our website, like they're not standing still. They're always moving. One of our models is a dancer, and that's why we chose her as well. And yeah, I think being able to display like we have an idea of who you are and what you're doing and why you're choosing this product. And we want to show you that we understand that and that we are creating this brand for you. I think in terms of like the influencer route and the social media route, like that is a whole nother beast that like I don't totally understand. And like we're working with someone in PR right now to help us with that and like reach the right people. But it's that also itself is like constantly changing. So I think even if you're like a specialist at like you're constantly learning new things and like still having to like network constantly. And yeah, there's so much to it that I think another part of like being an entrepreneur is like this network that you're creating of people who like help you. Even if you are a team of one, you have so many people that are helping you outside of yourself to build the brand that you want to build.
Yeah. And to me, I think that also comes back to like meeting as many people as you can because you never know who is like championing you behind closed doors and other conversations. It's like, but they don't do that until you meet them and sit down with them. Like it happens all the time and it's amazing when that happens. But I find it so interesting that I feel like nobody that I talk to has a perfect answer for early stage marketing. Like it's the hardest phase and so many people go so many different routes with it. I think like if it were me, I do marketing every day. It's my job. And even I think about it and I find it to be very daunting. And I'd be like, where do I start? And it's always kind of a tricky thing because I think it's also very like personality based. Like, who are you as a founder? You know, like I've talked to people who hustle and like they go out and they make a Facebook group and then they like start DMing everybody in like other Facebook groups and like, you know, but that's like their personality. I think that's their style of doing things. Where I've, you know, talked to other founders who don't do any of that and have like a completely different methodology around that. And it doesn't mean like one or the other way is successful. It just seems like, you know, I think it also depends on the product and the industry that you're in. But I always like, I just don't feel like the right answer is like diving into social media. I feel like that's like the way that people see that it is an option. But you know, I think a lot of people dive into that thinking that it's the only option. And then you're like shouting into the void and you're like waking up every day being like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
You know?
And it's not even necessarily like a money driver. Like you can have a million followers, but is like anyone buying the product? Two totally different things as well. Yeah. I think the personality part of it that you said is so true. I'm thinking of like another founder I know. She's a designer, but has a store here in Brooklyn or a few stores. And we were talking to her a few months ago, talking about how she's so good at content creation. Like she makes so many stories every single day. And we're like, how do you do it and like run all your businesses? And she's like, I don't know. I just do. And one of her staff members was like, well, you love it. Like you love creating these stories. And she's like, you do? Yeah, I do. I guess I do. I love it. And it's just like for her, it's natural and she looks amazing in what she's doing. And it just comes so naturally to her that like, yeah, if I was doing it, it would not look that way. I would be like so in my head about it. And I'd be like, I can't post this one. I can't. And for her, it's just like, it doesn't matter what you look like just put it out there. Like, you know, it's never going to be perfect. So like good enough.
Yeah. What did you guys do early on that worked for you?
We told everyone we knew. I think for me, that's a big thing about being an entrepreneur is like telling everyone you know. Even if it's not, you know, like shouting it from the rooftops necessarily, like when you launch, send an email, give a discount code, ask them to share with a friend, kind of like guerrilla marketing in a way, and
Mm-hmm.
just making sure that like the people who already champion you in like your everyday life, they want to support you, right? Like if you have a community built around you, they want to support you, they want to help you, and like you asking them to like share it with a friend is not a big ask. Like I'm sure they
Yeah.
listen to share with one person, they'll share with 10 people, or they'll share your story on Instagram. Like it's not a big ask, and I think for us that was a big thing. I think also recognizing when it was time to hire more help and hiring
Mm.
publicists, hiring PR. I think recognizing the moments that that is needed can, that might never come to some people, or they may not have the capacity to do that or the money to do it. And for us, we're lucky that we can. But I think that is a big changing point as well for us, is to bring on this creative team that can really help us scale to the point that like we have some sort of like name recognition and can continue creating more collections. Yeah. And meet you, like do things like this. It's really fun.
Yeah, no, but I think it's a good point. Like you reach a certain point, an inflection point, so to speak, where you really need to invest in PR. Like every company honestly like hits this point, to be honest, even if they're big, like you have PR people. So what was that moment for you guys? Like how did you know? And then, like why did you pick PR instead of like other options for marketing and stuff like that?
So after we launched our first two, each time we've launched a collection, it's actually been two collections at once. And so after we launched our first two collections, we kind of plateaued. We had our sales, we kind of plateaued. I think we had each of us had personal stuff going on, and so it didn't really come up as a priority of like, okay, what do we do next? And then last summer, I think we were trying to figure out like, okay, what do we need to do? How do we launch the next collection? How do we make it bigger than the first one, in terms of reach? And actually, one of my employees I just had a meeting with her, and she was asking me about the line. And she was like, if you ever need a PR person, and I have a really good client, like through another business
Mm.
that she has, because everyone in New York is doing a million things. One of her clients, she's like, she's amazing. I think you two would really hit it off. Like, you should talk to her. And she connected us that day. Michelle and I spoke to her that week, and we immediately hit it off. She's amazing. And the reason I know you, and I think it was kind of kismet in a way, but like
Mm.
of putting it out there that like, what am I trying to say? There are a couple of different things. One, putting it out there that like things are fine, but they're not great, and like we need
Mm.
support, and like we're trying to figure out what that looks like. And like
Mm.
if you have X, Y, or Z, we would love to be connected. And then also this person who is already in my community, who knows what we're doing, is also a woman founder doing lots of different things, has that connection as well.
Yeah.
So, and it's like the people and it's the networking and the
Mhm.
connections and the community. But I think realizing, okay, we've hit this plateau. We aren't really feeling super motivated to like go to the next step. So like, what do we need to do to get that motivation back and to feel excited about the next collection? And then speaking to someone who loved what we're doing and like is really excited about it as well was really fun. And I think having people on your team that do champion you and do really see the potential and want to be part of that journey with you is so important. There's so many different people out there who can help you, but if they don't feel the same way about your product as you do or the service you're
Mhm.
providing, you should move on. Like there are so many people that
Yeah.
can help you, believe in you, and you shouldn't stick around like if you're not getting the support you need, because there are other people out
Yeah.
there who can help.
100%. And I think it's the difference too between being like investing in a partner versus just like finding somebody on like Upwork or Fiverr or something to just like pump out content for you that's like generic and whatever. Cause like in essence, right, you're doing the same thing, but like the output when you invest correctly is so much better and like way more worth it than your time having to redo stuff or whatever that just like doesn't hit in the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes you have to go through those moments of like, how much money do I have to spend? Maybe it's like I'll test this out, but yeah, I think there are definitely there's always the writing on the wall, and like you need to be able to read that writing.
Yeah,
And there are moments
for
that you
sure.
can use those like the Upwork people, but like if you're really trying to like hone in and you're really trying to like speak to your brand, you need to find the right people, which can be really hard on like,
100%.
if you don't have a community, which again goes back to just like making those connections.
Yeah. So thinking about yourself too as a founder, like, this isn't your only business. I'm curious to know how the experience of like being a founder has changed you as a person. Like, is this something that you always wanted to do? Or, do you think like, how have you grown through this process?
Yeah, I think this is a great question for anyone, but I think as an entrepreneur, it's something that I've thought a lot about over the last year or so because there are a lot of other like personal things that have happened in my life. And I think one thing that I've noticed is that I've become much more okay and like much more willing to ask for help.
Mm.
Recognize when I need help and to reach out to other people in my life when I do. I think as women, we don't always ask for help when we need it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that was something that was really ingrained in me as a kid, like being an independent woman and not needing support and like doing things on my own. And we need each other. We are like, we need other people.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one big thing. And then also, I think recognizing where your strengths are and
Mm.
hiring and delegating where your strengths aren't. And there, of course, as an entrepreneur and sometimes as a solopreneur, there are things you have to totally do on your own that you can't delegate to, you can't hire out. And those things can be really tricky and like just having to like sit down and grind and like push through it. Scheduling time in your calendar and like really just getting it done and recognizing those moments when you have to do that. Like I have one thing that just comes like has been bothering me for like the last 2 weeks that I have to do and I just haven't done it yet. And I'm like, I know every day I'm like, I have to do this. I have to do this. And I haven't done it. But those things will always come up and it's fine. But like
Yeah.
owning that and recognizing it versus being like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's like, just acknowledge that that's a thing that you don't want to do. And then like maybe in the future when you can like hand that thing off, you can hand it off. But like there are all the things that we don't necessarily want to do that we have to do. And unfortunately,
Yeah. Well, and I think that's like every job ever, right? Like there's stuff in my day to day that I don't want to do that I procrastinate on because I'm like, ugh, that sounds gross. And it's like, I would love to hand that off to a team eventually when I have that. I mean, even with my podcast, like if I never had to do social media for my podcast again, it would be too soon because
yeah,
like that's just not what I want to be doing. But how it's got to get done, So you
yeah,
have to like find the willpower, and I think there's a lot of like self motivation that comes with being a founder that is a learned skill. Like even for overachievers, like I've always been an overachiever. I'm not perfect, and like every day is different. I'm a woman, so I wake up every day and I feel completely different than I did yesterday. And there are times when that self motivation like really has to kick in, or it's just simply not going to get done. And I think something interesting that you said too is like life happens. And like the cool thing is that with your business, I think a lot of entrepreneurs get scared that if they don't show up and like at 100% every single day, like it's nothing is going to move forward with their business. And while I think that's true, I think there's also some space for balance and grace and saying like, I think everything happens for a reason at the time in which it's supposed to happen. And you kind of have to go with like the ebb and flow of life and with business.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's perfect. It's so true. I think we push ourselves a lot to the brink of burnout sometimes. And I think if there's one thing that, a vast majority of us learned during COVID was to like give ourselves some leniency and like
Mm.
grace and be kind to ourselves. And it's something that's another really good lesson I think I've learned since starting my first business is to like really be kind to myself and gentle with myself and allowing myself to, if I need to take a day off or if I need to take an afternoon off and I don't have meetings, that's okay. Like if
Hmm.
something pressing, it's better to let myself rest or like take a Pilates class or like walk around the park and then like come back to it. Like I don't need to sit here. That's the joy of being an entrepreneur. Like I don't have to sit here
Hmm.
in my home like on a beautiful day like typing on my computer when I can go like take a walk around the park and like get some fresh air and like hang out with my dog and then come back and do it when I have like a little bit more motivation. Yeah. It's so
That's so true. Yeah, I think you're right. Like sometimes you have to take a step back and realize that half of that is like the reason why you're a founder.
yeah.
And like it's kind of a double-edged sword, but you have to be willing to find the joy in the experience, or else like you will never find it. Like it's not going to come and find you every day. Like it's hard and it's hard work, and you have to learn to find the joy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, thinking about the things that what our strengths are and our weaknesses are, like one thing that I think I've always known, but has become really, really clear and is really helpful as an entrepreneur is being able to work when I have the most energy. So like I'm very much a night owl, I told you. And so
Mm.
I often am like sending emails super late. And like my team doesn't read emails at night, so like they're not reading them. But when I send it to a client, I'll like use a boomerang, so they're not getting it at like
Oh,
midnight, like 7 a.m. But I know that I can like keep working. So like I go off, have like a great afternoon, go to dinner with friends, maybe like work out, and then I come home and then I'm working from like 1 p.m. to like 1 a.m. But that for me
yeah,
works.
that's wild.
I know when I tell people I work out at night, they're like, that is insane. But like that's when I have the most energy. So
Yeah.
for me, that's totally fine. And, sometimes I think about this, like, do you ever see people out during the day and you're like, what do they do for work? Like, what are they doing? Just like having
Yes.
like a lunch? Yeah. I used to
No,
think
like
that.
who's at the gym at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday?
Yeah. I mean, probably an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly.
That's for me. I think people are like, how is she always out during the day? But like, I love to get vitamin D during the day. I love to be out with my dog. And then at night, just like work while I'm watching TV or like work while I'm listening to a
Yeah.
podcast. And it like, I can plow through my work so much easier. I know that I get so much more work done in that time than I would in the
Yeah.
morning. So yeah,
Well,
being
yeah. I mean,
flexible.
that's the beauty. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Well, this has been amazing, Eleanor. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your experience and your wisdom that you've gained so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. It was so much fun chatting with you. I love listening to your podcast. I think the women that you have on are so amazing. I think
Thank
everyone
you.
has, like really beautiful things to share. I was listening to one of them this afternoon. I think it was the second to last one. The woman who like talks about love being in everything she does.
Yeah.
And I loved your what you spoke about before the episode. I thought that was really beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I had like, it was such a different interview from stuff that I normally do. And so I was like in the shower and I was like, I've got to do something different for like the intro, because otherwise like it's just a different episode. But I'm also like, there are no rules. I can do whatever I want. That's kind of the point. But yeah, I've been very lucky to have guests. I just think that like-minded individuals will find each other, and my mission really is to uplift and empower small businesses so other people can be inspired to follow the same path because it's just what I absolutely love and I'm super passionate about. So I've been really lucky so far, and I'm so glad that you're enjoying it because that means that it's working.
Yeah, it is. It totally is. And I'm going to connect you to
Thank
Michelle
you.
so she can share some cool small brands.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm always looking and like secretly I want to shop them and I want to look at them and I want to know how she finds them because it's not just about the podcast. Like I want to shop.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something to bring us joy.
That's a wrap on today's episode. If you feel called to support this podcast, please give it your honest rating and leave a review. Thank you so much for listening. You can find all the links to connect with Eleanor in the show notes, and if you want more founder wisdom, community, and behind the scenes, come hang out at mimir.ink. See you guys next week.